The Celtics selected Baylor Scheierman with the 30th pick of the NBA draft. What does that mean for Sam Hauser, Svi, O'Shea Brissett? Let's talk about it here on the Celtics Chronicle. Yo, what's good, everybody? If you're new here, my name is Adam Taylor. I cover the Boston Celtics for SB Nation and USA Today, along with the Celtics Chronicle newsletter. Links in the description. Sign up for free or for a paid version. I'm joined by my homie, Mr. Tim Shields, also of SB Nation, but also formerly of CNS Media. What's popping today, Tim?
Nothing much. Just kind of taking in everything after the draft last night. It feels kind of weird going in and not really knowing what to expect. And again, this guy coming off of a championship, it's kind of weird looking at the NBA draft. It felt like it kind of just came right around the corner, but Celtics must have done their homework because it seems like they found a good fit.
5-year college veteran, fully polished, average rebounds a game, can score from deep, basically a free-level scoring guy. I'm curious to see how his defense holds up, but he comes in having set multiple records in Division One men's basketball. Just after the pick was made, Taylor Slow of the Celtics put this out up onto X. I usually call it Twitter. Baylor Scheierman is one of the players in college basketball history to score 1,000+ points at multiple Division One schools. 1,114 points to South Dakota State. Blah de blah de blah de blah de blah. So he's also the only player to do, what was it, 1,000 points, 300 assists, and so many rebounds. Like, he's set multiple records. He's coming into a team with probably the hardest rotation to crack in the league right now. Like, their rotation's completely set. You do have O'Shea Brissett not knowing where he stands right now. He's opted out, but he could still re-sign with the team. There's no guarantee just because he opts out of his player option that he's not coming back. Whether this draft pick minimizes the chances of him coming back, we don't know. For me, I'm looking at this as a Svi Mykhailiuk replacement more than I am a Sam Hauser insurance or a O'Shea Brissett replacement. Gives you somebody a little bit more polished overall, can rebound, can pass, can defend, multiple level scorer, whereas Svi's just a single skill guy. And if anyone's watched any shows I've done over the years, my opinion on single skill guys is quite low in terms of being on a championship roster. So I'm quite high on this pick. For a 30th pick, they drafted for fifth. I put this out on Twitter earlier today on X. The Celtics not only drafted for fifth, but they landed a guy that they think that can fit into that rotation. I've got him carving out a 9th to 11th man role this season, which is just outside of a playoff role, but potentially I played in 45 to 50 games, 8 minutes a game type of role during the regular season.
I think he's got more of a puncher's chance than Jordan Walsh, I think, right now, just based on the skill set that he's got. And that's not a shot against Jordan Walsh. It's just a matter of age and experience. Walsh is still very, very young. This guy right here is going to be turning 24 in September. Overall, his skill set very much plays to the NBA level. Size, about 6'6", 6'7", 205 pounds. Capable of shooting the ball from deep. One of his best seasons came, I think it was his junior year at South Dakota State. Was shooting over 40% on threes. And those attempts went up when he went to Creighton, and he still held a solid percentage. I think his final season with Creighton, he was shooting, 38.1% from three. And that's pretty much exclusively what the Celtics are probably going to have him do. He's not going to be initiating offense, but, finding him on the perimeter on, driving kick opportunities, and basically just you're going to get a lot of open looks. Be ready to hit them. And with this kind of player, with the amount of years he's got underneath his belt, 5 years at the collegiate level, 24 in September. This is not a guy who is going to need to play a lot in the G League, in my opinion. This is a guy who can come in and get some rotational minutes here and there. I don't know how significant of a role it will be. And again, you said it before, but talking about, we still don't really know what O'Shea Brissett's going to do. He actually had a comment making me think that he might be coming back, but I know financially there's a lot of things limiting them. This is a move as much to keep youth on the team and give you a little bit of an injection there as much as it is about getting someone who's cost controlled and you've got him on the books for multiple years. You're not worrying about potentially trying to keep a guy like Svi Mykhailiuk. You've got a guy who can just come in and get the minutes and can be part of that future for the foreseeable, time being right now.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the most important things is he fits into this positional versatility mantra that Joe Mazzulla likes to run. He's averaged 3.6, am I right? Yeah, 3.6 assists over his 5 years in college. That means he can handle the rock a little bit. He can play make a little bit. The Celtics like to initiate offense off their wings and forwards anyway, just to ease up the ball handling duties on Drew and Derek. And then obviously you have Tatum as like that lead ball handling guy. Jalen Brown took a step up there that this year too. But just knowing that you've got another guy off the bench that if you do find him and he's open and the defense shuts him down, you're not screwed. He's going to be able to put the ball on the floor, attack a closeout, and make the right next play. And that's the beauty of drafting a 4 or 5 year collegiate guy is they're just so polished coming in. I always say it's that high floor, low ceiling type of guy. Like you know exactly what you're getting, but there's none of this potential that everybody seems to just latch onto and hope that it hits. It very rarely does, to be quite honest. So I'm down with this. I like the fact that he can play multiple positions. You can put him at the 2, you can put him at the 3. Maybe if you go in super small, you can slide him up further. I wouldn't advise it. But you've got 2 areas where he can slot in. He can handle the rock. He can do so many different things. And again, the Celtics like to control the glass. So bringing in another body that rebounds and puts effort in around the boards is going to be big for him. Even carving a minute in the opening year of his career, it's just we know he can rebound. We know he can score off movement. We know he can spot up. So I think now would be a good time to just kind of look at some highlights, just so I mean, if anyone hasn't seen him play, or they're just looking for a way to see how he fits. I pulled up a highlight reel here just so everybody can, like, including myself, can get another look at this guy. So if we jump onto that here and then we just hit that play button.
All square at 21. We already have 5 ties and 4 lead changes, and now
There's
we've
someone
got
on the Celtics do that. So if we just go back and watch that play again, it's a
square at 21.
little bit of a pinning around the nail, bit of a gut exit. Baylor Scheierman pops out on off the screen,
Already
action
have
shoot.
5 ties
Rock
and
it.
4 lead
Like we
changes,
see the
and now
Celtics run plays like that all the time. If we go back, look, it's
all
just a
square at
standard
21.
little veer action from the big man gets because he set the drag screen before setting the down screen. Baylor Sherman's open, hit that free. The Celtics run stuff like this all the time. Tatum's come off those like nail pin downs. We've seen Sam Hauser have access and success coming off those nail pin downs. So that is just an NBA repeatable skill for me. That stands out straight away. Just that movement shooting ability is what makes these guys such a threat coming into the NBA is because there's so much, as you said, so much spacing and open opportunities are going to be there for them. It's going to be easy to just score off the catch. So if we just continue here for a minute, looking at the other screen, like I can't just watch it on the screen we're recording on. Little zoom action.
Look
And
at that
boom.
movement. Good.
So this is one of the most common plays in the NBA, right? It's called a zoom action. Some people will know it as Chicago. So all it's going to be is Sherman's in the corner here. He's going to get a pin down from the guy who's currently around the nail, and then the big man is going to slide on over and initiate the handoff. Sherman's going to come off the pin down, receive the handoff, then he can either drive or he can shoot. I call it a zoom action. Some people call it Chicago. Doesn't really matter the name of it. The point is, look what happens to Sherman's defender here. Watch how the defender gets completely caught up on the screen right here. And now, once the DHO happens, the big man defender's got a choice to make, right? He's either going to have to stick with the big and kind of defend the roll because Scheierman can always pick the ball up and then hit the roll man if the defender's switched onto him, or he's going to stick with the big and now the shooter's available. So as he comes over, look, they go with the big. The screener's defender is now trying to switch out, and boom, too much space, easy money. Every team in the NBA runs this action. Every single team. It's one of the most prevalent, ubiquitous plays in all of the league. If you can get him looks like that and he can hit off movement, and do you see how quickly he squared his hips up and squared his feet up to the rim? If he can do that all the time, these guys are cooking. I don't know how much more you can say about a guy who's coming off your bench as a deep bench guy, right? And obviously The NBA is harder. You need to be a bit quicker. Defenders are smarter. They're not really getting caught up on screens like that very often. But there you go. So I'm going to let you talk through some now, Tim, because I've spoke for a minute.
No, I think it's important just to break down the actions there because it's just interesting to try and see how this guy can kind of create his own shot. I mean, you look at him, look at where he did there, going around the elbow right there in that jumper. And it's clean, it's confident. He's able to handle the ball. He creates that space, that opportunity, and he knocks it down. I think overall, the confidence there on that shot, if you look at him from the 3-point range as well, his ability to just catch and shoot, bam, look at lucky bounce on that one. But overall, his shooting stroke is really what's going to help him get minutes. And comparing, some of those actions and how they've run them with Sam Hauser, I could foresee him having a similar level of success just because he's such a natural shooter. And that's what allowed Sam Hauser to even just carve out the role he was just because of his success at the collegiate level. And then this is a guy who's had 5 years of experience and still managed to be productive in all of those years. And even when his attempts went up, his percentage still stayed very high. That's the mark of a good shooter, is if you have a smaller sample size, you increase that, and he's still producing. You've got something consistent there.
I just want to end it with this play as well, right? Because this one is very similar to stuff we see the Celtics run. Basic, it's just a flare screen away from the ball, so it's a flare away because there's the ball, the screen's coming towards the ball, so the player's flaring away from the ball. So it's a flare away screen. Scheierman gets it here. Look, you got the low man defender rotating up and digging. You've got his own defender scrambling out. So it's going to be kind of hard to get this shot off without getting a hand in your face. You've got one guy scrambling. You got another one guy that's digging up so then he can contest. So what does Scheierman do? Waits for the defense to get to him, puts the ball on the floor to attack the closeout, and then bullies his way to the rim. Like, he just looked bigger than most dudes. And look, this is normal for NBA guys, right? Like, you look bigger and stronger than guys that aren't making it to the NBA. It might be Division One, but there's still that step above, right? But knowing he can put the ball on the floor, the one play you pointed out a minute ago where he got to that elbow and took the jumper, he handled the rock on a pick and roll and then snaked his way to this other side of the floor, found his spot, and then just got into a pull-up. He's got the ball on a string a little bit, like it's still a bit loose, but it's very respectable, reliable. You can see how he's generating assists for others and how he's generating some self-created shots. So in terms of just having a guy that you can trust to make things happen, I'm quite okay with this guy. I feel like he's going to be able to give you reliable minutes as and when you need them without you feeling like he needs to play every game because he's got to develop, right? And he's not coming into the best situation for a rookie, but he's not coming into the worst by any means. I mean, he could have landed with Detroit.
I could have landed in Detroit, and Detroit would have been a tough one. I feel bad for Detroit catching a stray on that, but come on, at a certain point, you got to stop giving people free passes to just, run a team into the ground. But I overall, I want to see how this is going to work out. Again, I think the biggest thing is you're not having to commit that development time. And I think there should be more of a movement towards this, I think, at the NBA level. But when it comes to drafting players, don't just go off of age. Go off of like what the fit is going to be like, the skill set, what's translatable here. I think overall, the versatility that Scheierman's going to bring is what's going to allow him to even carve out any kind of role at the NBA level, especially, as you said, on a team that's so established, that's just coming off a championship, wants to bring back all of their guys. What does that look like? Is there guys who are like out of the rotation? A guy like Steve Mikhailiuk, maybe he goes and plays overseas or something like that. Celtics still clearly free agency's got to come up. They've got some moves to make, maybe on the fringes, but figuring out how to navigate everything with the salary cap, having a young guy like this makes things a lot easier. Having the cost control player and having a guy who's still, not young at 24 years old, but has the experience and fits your timeline. It's big. And I think right now this is kind of like a smart pick by the Celtics. I don't know if there's going to be anything else that follows this. They've still got another pick on day 2. There was chatter originally before they took the pick. I believe Brian Robb was mentioning it of Mass Live, was saying that there was potential for them to trade out of that pick. It seems like they ended up sticking with it, but we'll see where it goes from there.
I mean, it's cost-controlled assets, right? Like, you're bringing a guy in that's under multiple-year contract on a very low deal. that's going to be able to give you reliable minutes. And you know for a fact that during the season, somebody's going to need to miss a stretch of games and you're going to need to rely on this guy. And judging by how he's produced in college, the fact that he's a polished player, his percentages, I mean, they're on the screen right now. You can feel confident that he's going to give you what he needs to give you, and he's a low cost guy, right? So then, as we look at whether it's V that he's replacing, whether he's insurance for Sam Hauser, whether he's going to pick up O'Shea Brissett's minutes, however he fits, the point is he fits, right? And I'm a big fan of drafting or trading based on fit rather than based on name, right? So when you look at the Knicks trade yesterday, so the day before yesterday, so Tuesday, when you look at the Knicks trade for Mikal Bridges on Tuesday, they made that trade based on fit. Yes, Bridges is a great player. He's not an all-star. He's never been an all-star, but they paid an all-star fee because Bridges comes in and completes what they're trying to do, not just as the Nova Knicks, but as
Stacking up on wing talent.
Yeah, that can defend. He's been an all defense guy, so he fits that Thibodeau mold. He can score from all three levels. They traded for fit, and Boston have now drafted for fit too. So when you do that, you're just complementing the other guys on the roster, and you're building around the system you have in place. Rather than building a system around your players, you're putting players into the system. And this system just dominated the league and won a championship. So why would you then bring in a guy that you need to spend the next year or two developing in the G League that may or may not hit, when you could bring in a guy like this that it's like, yo, we need him for whatever and however long, we know he's going to be able to hang, right? He might not be a major contributor, but there'll be a couple of games where he probably scores 12 to 15 points. There'll be a couple of games where he maybe flirts with a double-double, depending on like how the Celtics run their rotations, if he steps into a bigger role. But I feel like this is one of those picks that he's going to be seen as a steal. He'll probably outplay expectations, which isn't hard considering how low those expectations are just because of the team he's coming into.
It reminds me a little bit of the Pritchard pick. Just a little bit, where it's a guy like at the collegiate level is a sharpshooter. Overall, unless you really, really watch college ball, you don't know who this guy is. It's not a sexy name. It's not a Filipowski or whatever from Duke. Like, this is just a guy who's going to come in and just check all the boxes for what you need him to do in a role. You know, you're not asking to change the franchise, but having those years of experience, similar to what Pritchard had. I think Pritchard was a 4-year athlete at Oregon. You know, having a guy who's got the high floor. And this is kind of what you're at when you're a contending team. You just need to hit on these guys, not in the sense of I need home runs, but as Brad Stevens would say, you need to hit singles. You need to hit a couple singles. And this is kind of what this is. This is a guy who's going to come in, give you versatility, gives you experience without having to play him a ton. And I think that's best for this kind of situation for both parties.
Doesn't this feel like a Brad Stevens pick though?
It's so much like a Brad Stevens pick.
Multi-talented wing, decent size, good wingspan, can do a little bit of everything, and he's coming in ready to play right now. That's a Brad Stevens pick.
Plug and play, baby.
And don't forget, this is, if I'm not mistaken, the first ever Brad Stevens first-round draft pick, because he's traded out of the first.
Yeah, because the first. Yeah, I think. Yeah, you think you're right.
Because he traded out of the first the last 2 years. And traded back and picked up loads of seconds, right? Which he then used to flip for like a Xavier Tillman and so forth. So this is the first round draft pick that Brad Stevens has made. And it's a Brad Stevens draft pick. I mean, I don't know what we were expecting here. Like, it just makes sense. And if anyone follows the Celtics Chronicle newsletter, I spoke to 2 different draft experts to begin the week. Both of them had Scheierman at number 1 on their board for the Celtics. He was like the guy that fit. If you scroll on social media right now, a lot of analysts are saying Boston got the steal of the draft. I just want to pull up this tweet from Keith Smith. Loved about Baylor Scheierman pick for the Celtics. That's cover in case things go sideways with Sam Hauser, can do some stuff as a ball handler and pass it too. So that's just another very smart NBA guy saying exactly what we're saying on this podcast. But it's also just kind of giving everyone an expectation that this dude is more than just a shooter. What are you laughing at?
I just laughing at you. You're like, it's a very smart NBA guy saying the same things that we're saying. Therefore, I love the Socratic
Keith's my
method.
guy.
Keith,
Keith's
Keith,
my guy.
Keith knows his stuff. Keith knows his
Yeah,
stuff.
that's my guy, that
So,
is.
but
And
it's
anyone that's on this
comforting.
show, if anyone that watches this show long enough, you'll see plenty of Keith over the time. With that being said, I do think we need to discuss this whole Sam Hauser part of the draft pick, not because I think anything's going on with Sam Hauser, but because it's going to be a narrative that happens, right? Like whether people like it or not, everyone's going to wonder whether or not this means that Sam Hauser sticks around. He's extension eligible right now. All the reports so far have kind of pointed toward the Celtics want to get that extension done. I mean, I put this out on social media the other day. It's been Sam Hauser came into the league 3 years ago, pretty much to the week, as an undrafted rookie. 3 years later, he's one of the best movement shooters in the NBA. He's respected defensively, and he's a champion. They know they struck gold with him. One of Brad Stevens' first moves in the draft period. You know what I'm saying? Brad Stevens pick, undrafted free agent. They're going to want to extend him. He's a success story of the Brad Stevens era. He's a success story of this current Celtics team. But that doesn't mean you don't need insurance for him. It doesn't mean that just because he's been healthy to this point doesn't mean he will always be healthy. Things happen. It's the league. People get hurt. It's a very physical league. Knowing you've got another guy that can shoot close to 40% on very similar movement and very similar actions, that's such a comfort blanket to be able to rest your head on. And then you just need to make sure that you're keeping Scheierman in rhythm and you're giving him enough minutes that he's not regressing at any point and he's adjusting to the NBA. But I don't see this as insurance in the form of, oh, well, if Hauser doesn't want an extension and he wants to go somewhere else, like I don't see why he would want that or any reason like that. For me, this insurance is injury insurance. And a lot of people are going to look at this as, well, is extension eligible? Are the Celtics going to offer the extension now? I don't know. There's some tough decisions that need to get made as a second tax apron team. But again, he's a success story.
Yeah.
I'm expecting that extension to get done.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think he's going to ask for a ton. I think it's just you look at the situation that happened. It's a very similar situation, except it ended in a championship. But look to the Miami Heat and what happened to Max Strus. Max Strus had the opportunity. Same situation. Obviously, he was with Boston first. I'm sure they kicked themselves and kicking themselves after that happened. But they had him in as an undrafted free agent, signed him to a camp deal. Eventually moved on from him. I think it was to make room for Taco or Javante. And then he goes on and has this amazing stretch run with the Miami Heat. Then he gets a shot at free agency. I'm not saying him and Sam Hauser are the same player, but in terms of what you need them to do for you, in terms of a movement shooter, that kind of thing, dependable wing, you're looking at a similar fit, at least for the Celtics. And he went and got paid. I'm not saying he's going to get that much money, but if there's a chance for him to try and chase a payday, you want to at least cover yourself. And I think this is an example of you can never have too many good wing shooters. There's no such thing as having too many good shooters that have versatility, that have size, that have rebounding, that can be respected not only on the offensive end, but on the defensive end as well. This is not a bad thing. This is strictly just covering your bases in case anything happens with Hauser, whether it be injury or contract issues. And it's also just adding another NBA capable or NBA ready wing. He's got size to him. Clearly, he's in good shape. This is by all means a logical move for all parties involved. And having another wing in the mold right now, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think Boston is at a point where if I had to pick a spot where they need the bodies, it's at the forward spot and the big man spot. I think they need a little bit more depth there, and this is a way to get it, especially after they move some wings, in the middle of the season, moving on from Banton and moving on from Stevens as well. Adding another wing to the mix is just logical.
Yeah, and I feel like Scheierman's already better than what Banton is. I know Banton put up numbers, but he put up numbers in a bad situation on a team that still lost even when he put up numbers.
He put
So
numbers up after he left.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. On a bad team that lost even when he was putting up numbers, right? It was just they had no one else to really run offense through at times, and Banton kind of was just there. I think Scheierman comes in as a more polished product than what he was. I think he also comes in as a guy that's ready to contribute in multiple different roles from the jump. And I don't see this being the end for Hauser at all. I think Hauser's locked in. I want him to be locked in. What I will say is I also think because Scheierman can dribble the ball a little bit and he can create off the bounce for himself and for others, he can exist in the same rotation as Hauser.
Yeah.
Because he's not just a spot like Hauser is. He's added that 1 or 2 dribble pull up. He's added that baseline cut and then catch the ball around the dunker and finish that way. And he's also added in a drive to the rim, 1 or 2 dribble drive and then go into his gap there. So Hauser's added that into his game, but he's not really a guy where you're like, oh, he's going to cook you off the dribble. He's going to put the ball on the floor and make a decision. That's not Hauser's game. He's adding to it and he's becoming a threat to attack those closeouts, but he's not making reads there very often. Scheierman's going to come in. You're like, yo, he can put the ball on the floor. He can create space for himself. He can create a shot for someone else. He can get to the rim. He can post you up and make a decision out of. He can do so many other things that there is crossover with him and Hauser, but there's not at the same time, right? Like you can use them both as floor spacing, catch and shoot guys, but know that if the ball comes to Scheierman, he isn't just there to shoot. He's there. He can do other things, and that means he can coexist. Whereas Svi and Hauser couldn't really, if you get what I'm saying, because they were so similar in nature and Hauser was just better. This to me makes more sense. The only thing Svi had that was very underrated was some fucking hops, dude. You could get up and do so. I'm not worried about the Hauser Scheierman fit at all. I do think they can share a floor together as well as coexist on the same rotation.
And I think that's a big thing because it's not just like a 1-for-1 swap there. Similar skill sets, an important skill set on a team of being able to just knock down open threes when you get them. And if you're on a team that's got Derek White, Drew Holiday, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, you're going to find a lot of open opportunities and you just have to make the most of them. It's why Hauser has been able to evolve into the player that he is right now. And kudos to him for working on it. Kudos for the Celtics for sticking with it. So I think you just got to trust Brad on this one. I don't know how much more I could talk about this pick because I'm like,
yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, I'm excited, but like, I want to see what's going to happen. It's interesting.
So I'm going to leave everybody with this. So this is a roundabout. Let me see, because I've got the time in here. It's about a 30-second clip, maybe just a bit less, of Scheierman sending a message to Celtics fans after being drafted.
What's up, Celtics fans? I'm excited to get to Boston and get to work and help, raise that championship banner number 19 and keep Titletown alive. Let's go, Boston.
We're going to be moving into a more consistent recording schedule now. I've taken some time away. If you've noticed, we've done some branding. We've got some new things going on with like the whole layout and stuff. So we've spent time doing that. So we're giving everyone a bit of a better product. Again, if you're looking for daily updates or regular updates on the Celtics sent straight to your inbox, play breakdowns, analysis, news, everything, then hit that link below, sign up to the Celtics Chronicle, and make sure you subscribe. We'll catch y'all later.
Cheers.